The DotNetNuke Azure Accelerator has been completely revamped for the DotNetNuke 6.2 release. This version of the accelerator focuses on making the process of installing DotNetNuke on Windows Azure as simple as possible. Virtually every task that is required to get DotNetNuke running on Windows Azure has been completely automated. If you remember the previous versions of the DNN Azure Accelerator, you had a lot of prep work that you had to do from the Windows Azure Management Portal. All of that is gone with the new accelerator. Let's take a look at what the new accelerator looks like. After clicking past the opening screen, we are given the option to automatically deploy DotNetNuke on an existing Azure subscription, or to just create the package files which will allow us to manually deploy DotNetNuke through the Azure Management Portal. If you choose the automatic option, you will need to select your subscription from the drop-down list. If you don't have any subscriptions, you can click the refresh button, which will open up a dialog box allowing you to log in with your Windows Live ID account into the Windows Azure platform. If you don't have a Windows Azure platform account, you can go ahead and sign up for a new subscription that will let you go ahead and get started. Since I already have an account, I'm going to go ahead and log in with my Live ID. This really highlights the level of automation in the new accelerator. Once you've signed in, the wizard will download your active subscriptions and allow you to choose where you want DotNetNuke installed. Here I'm going to choose my DotNetNuke Corp account. Once you have your subscription selected, click Next. Now you can select an existing hosted service or create a new one. Likewise, you can choose to create a new storage account or use one that you already have. But this is also where you will set up the size of your virtual hard drive that is used to store your DotNetNuke installation and any content files that you may create on your website. Make sure to set the size to whatever you think you might reasonably need in the future. You will only pay for how much space is actually used on the hard drive, and it will prevent you from having to resize the VHD later, which is not a simple task. I'm going to go ahead and enter some new hosted services that I want to use. So I'm going to go ahead and create a DNN trial account, and I'm going to put it in the North Central US. And then I'm going to also create a new storage service, and we'll call this DNN trial. And we'll put that in the North Central US. Note that this is still a beta. We've got a couple of small issues with drop downs here, but I'll just go ahead and make sure that those are correct. And we'll leave this at 1 gigabyte. That's all I really need for this demo. On the next screen, you will have the option for setting up SQL Azure Server and the database you will use for your DotNetNuke installation. Since the wizard is focused on creating new installations of DotNetNuke, it'll force you to create a new database instance, although you can reuse the existing SQL Azure Server. Once you have filled everything out, click Next. For my purposes, I'm just going to reuse my existing server, put in my credentials. We'll go ahead and test to make sure that the connection is good. And then I'm going to create a new database, and I'm going to call this DotNetNuke Trial. Set up some credentials for my trial account, or my trial database, and then click Next. One of the awesome new features in this version of the accelerator is the ability to enable remote desktop as one of the installation steps. This makes it extremely easy to manage your DotNetNuke instances using RDP. Since this is such a useful feature, I highly recommend you take advantage of it. I'm just going to fill in my username and password as we've been doing all along. This doesn't have to be the same as the other usernames and passwords you've been using, but for consistency I'm just going to go ahead and use the one I've been using. So once I've entered my username and password, I'll just go ahead and click Next. One of the other great features of the accelerator is the ability to enable Windows Azure Connect. Windows Azure Connect allows you to set up a network share from your local machine to a Windows Azure instance. This will allow you to directly manage files on your DotNetNuke instance without needing to use RDP or FTP. You can essentially treat your DotNetNuke installation as if the files were stored on your local machine. You can move or edit files in your DotNetNuke installation with ease. This also makes it extremely easy to upgrade DotNetNuke since DNN supports Xcopy deployment of upgrade files. In the past, upgrading DotNetNuke on Windows Azure was a bit more complicated, and now it becomes extremely simple. I'll be demonstrating Windows Azure Connect in a future video, so for now I'm just going to leave this turned off and go ahead and click Next. Finally, select the Azure package name that you want to install. The current beta version of the wizard only includes a single package definition. This should change by the time of the final release. I'm going to leave the option to auto-install .NETNuke checked, and I'm going to go ahead and click Next. Go ahead and review all of your settings that you've previously entered, and then go ahead and click Next if everything is okay. If not, you can go back and change any of the settings you previously entered. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and click Next. This basically says I'm going to go ahead and start the install process. And now you can sit back and wait while the DNN Azure Accelerator creates your .NETNuke site on Windows Azure. This will take a few minutes, as Azure will need to spin up a new instance before the .NETNuke install can be completed. Once the installation is complete, the accelerator will present the deployment log showing you everything that happened during the deployment. This gives you the opportunity to see if there were any errors or problems during the deployment. Here we can see that there was some issue with the SQL data provider, and I can go ahead and go into .NETNuke and see exactly what the issues were. Again, this is still both a beta of the accelerator as well as working with beta versions of .NETNuke itself. So we expect to see some issues. All of these will be resolved prior to the final release of both the accelerator and .NETNuke 6.2. But so far everything looks to be pretty good, and as you can see in the background, we have our new site, our new .NETNuke 6 site up and running and ready to go.